Well, good morning. I am Melody Crenshaw. I am the portal coordinator for Transfer Virginia, and I'll give just the brief spiel that I've given the last 2 weeks. My background in terms of academics is that I was a geography professor for a few years and fell into the role of counselor working at Germanna Community College before this position. And there I worked with a number of transfer students and students just needing advising assistance all around. So it makes for a really nice transition to this position. Emily?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Muniz. I am the Associate for Transfer and Talent Pathways at SCHEV. Like Melody, my previous experience was as a transfer counselor, so that has really helped inform a lot of what I do. And so I'm grateful that you all are here. I hope that the information we share today is helpful. As Melody said, we're going to record and we'll stop at the end of our presentation and answer questions that you have. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get this party started. Okay, so today we're going to talk about transfer advising best practices and then using the portal to assist you with your advising. Oh, goodness. Okay, let me go ahead and load all this. There we go. So you all advise students, hopefully this information is just, a friendly reminder. Certainly these are things that you probably already do. But one of the things that we think is really helpful when you're advising transfer students is to think about, the process that they have to go through from start to finish. And are there opportunities to streamline that for them? If they're bouncing around between different offices and, different colleges even, there is the potential for them to, kind of get lost in the mix. And so we want to make sure that, we're showing them the tools that they need and guiding them through the process. Another thing that you can do, and that I recommend that worked well for me. So I worked at CVCC in Lynchburg, and there are 4 private colleges and universities in the area. And so I made it a point to, develop and maintain relationships with individuals at each of those schools so that when I was working with students who were planning on staying locally, I could say, oh, you need this person in this office at this institution. Especially at a smaller community college, some of the students may be intimidated to reach out to a college or university. So, letting them know, hey, there's a person that I know over there that you can talk to can really be helpful. So, having contacts at the institution and certainly beyond, your local colleges and universities, any across the state that you work with often. And sharing, the points of contacts with the student. Again, that really can help, make it a little bit less scary when they're having to reach out. And then coordinating support for students, both at your college and at the, partner institution. So knowing, what offices the student needs to go to, both at your college and at the 4-year, so that you can help direct them. And then getting to know your students and their specific needs. This one's kind of obvious, but one of the first things that I would ask a student when they sat down in my office was, are you planning on transferring? What is your end goal? And that might seem like a big question for someone who's just starting. They're probably thinking, oh, I don't have to figure that out until the end. But as we all know, that's not a good plan. You want to start early. It is a process. So, having those conversations with your students from the very first meeting so that you can be asking the right questions and helping them make those decisions as they move forward through the process. And so there's ways to do that utilizing the portal, and that's what we're going to show you today. And so again, planning the end goal from day one, if the student knows their career plans, then you can kind of work backwards. So, if it includes transferring and getting a bachelor's degree, think about that career. And then what bachelor's degree is required, or, beyond that, maybe a master's or a doctorate. And then aligning their associate degree with those programs and incorporating the Uniform Certificate of General Studies. So that way, if they're planning on transferring, they're in the right, pathway going forward. And then if they don't know their career goals, and, we know many students who are undecided about that, You can work forwards and include career exploration and whatever that looks like at your institution. That might happen in your office. There might be a career center that you refer them to. But again, starting them in that UCGS, that Uniform Certificate of General Studies, we talked about that in a little bit more detail in our first session. That is built into our transfer associate degrees. So again, working through that to the associate degree and then on to their bachelor's degree, and of course, then the career. Dual enrollment is a big one, and it's going to become even more prominent in the very near future. And so we want to make sure that, you know, you're incorporating that and knowing how to talk with students about how that's incorporated into their associate degree and their bachelor's degree. So of course, you know, they need to be getting C's or better, you know, even in dual enrollment for it to transfer. If they're doing any sort of credit for prior learning like AP, that can be very helpful to start chipping away at some of these requirements. But one of the important things to note, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in detail when we're showing you a transfer guide later, is finding out, you know, does the four-year institution accept the same score that the community college does? So for example, the VCCS will accept a 3, but does the four-year institution accept a 3, or, you know, do they want a 4 or a 5? A lot of times that's dependent on the student's major and the course that they have earned AP credit in. But just knowing, you know, the differences there, and that, you know, you might have to have a conversation with the student about whether they need to take that class if they only got a 3. And the four-year school requires a 4 or a 5. So again, including that in the conversation is helpful. And then, you know, the optimal advising tool is the transfer guide if it's available. And we'll talk about that for the most seamless transfer, because it really spells it out for the student on this one document. Okay, and so again, in the first info session that we did a few weeks ago, we talked about the common curricula, but just as a reminder, here is an example of one. This is social work. They all look like this. It has the Uniform Certificate of General Studies built in at the top there, and then the major requirements below. This is what we use to create the transfer guide templates for the 4 years to create their transfer guides. So this can be really helpful to review, you know, if you think that would be helpful to you, so you understand the curriculum and understand the requirements that will be included in the transfer guide template. Just, you know, as a reminder, the four-year schools, when they create their transfer guides, they can pare down. So where there's options within a certain requirement, if they want one specific, you know, requirement, they can specify that, but they cannot add anything that's not included here. And they can't change anything. So, you know, it will look like this, or it may be a pared down version, depending on the school's requirements. But we, of course, encourage them to leave it as flexible as possible, if possible. And here are some examples. So on the left, we have Norfolk State University's social work program. And then on the right, we have Bridgewater College. Both of these, you know, include the social work curriculum. NSU's is beyond one page, and some of these are, you know, a couple pages for the curricular information. But what we want to demonstrate here at the bottom is that, you know, the student is going to complete their associate degree, so 60 to 62 credits, and then that they only have an additional 60-ish credits left to complete. So this is really the 2+2 document. So a student can see, oh, I can graduate in, you know, 4 years if, you know, the timeline works out for them to do that, but shouldn't be more than, you know, the additional 60 credits. And so all of this can be found in the Transfer Virginia portal. And so we are going to go through a few scenarios with you all that we know you have these conversations with students probably daily about, you know, what their plans are and, you know, where they are in the process. And we're going to show you, based on those scenarios, what you can find or where you can find the information in the portal. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Melody share her screen. And I will guide us through the scenarios, and Melody will show us how to find the information in the portal.
Fantastic. Okay, so just a reminder, we're looking at the Transfer Virginia portal, which can be found at www.transfervirginia.org. And this is the home page. And let me just quickly point out a couple of toolbars that we will be using today. First of all, in the yellow toolbar across the top, we've got transfer partners and programs and courses. We're going to go to both of those today. I will give you a heads up. We are in the midst of our fall refresh right now, and before Thanksgiving, there will be some subtle changes on this homepage. We are changing programs and courses to two separate buttons, programs, and a separate button for courses, just to give you that heads up. And they do what you think they do, search by programs and search by courses. The blue toolbar has a number of helpful drop downs with links. I actually don't think we're going to be using that one today. And then this is the carousel, and I know we've gotten some feedback about the usability here. If you click on one of the gray tabs, it changes the picture, and you want to double click anywhere in the picture, or I guess single click works, to go to that item. So to go to the transfer partners, you click on the gray and then click anywhere in the picture. All right, Emily, you want to give us our first advising scenario?
Sure. So our first advising scenario is the student comes into your office and they're undecided on their transfer college, but they might know the major or career field. So we're going to use the portal to help that student explore and choose a Virginia institution.
Super. The way that I would do this is, first of all, search by the program that they are interested in. And for that, I would go up to the Programs and Courses button, or in the future, go to Programs, click on that, and this truly lists all of the programs that all 60 plus colleges have loaded into the portal. Actually, it's not quite 60, but that all the colleges have put in here. I recommend that you use the filters on the left-hand side as best you can based on the student's ask. So in this case, I am going to suggest that the student is looking for a bachelor degree program. And I think the example that we're going to use today is social work. Now, I will tell you, you can type in social work, just like the example shows accounting, but it's going to pull up both social and work when it does its search. So that's really good if you're doing a single word search like accounting. But for social work, I'm actually going to put double quotations around it so that it's looking for specifically social space work somewhere in either the title or in the description of the program. And so you can see that we've got social work, Bachelor of Social Work, Baccalaureate in Social Work, a number of different social work things. And I will, if I click on page 3 of the results, okay, here are some things that don't have social work in the title, but I went through and tested a bunch of these yesterday. Yes, somewhere in the description of that program is the term social space work. So in this case, it's probably that you can get a job translating in a social work field, whatever. All right, let me go back to page 1. So this is the list of social work, things with social work in the title or the description for bachelor degree programs. And you can see Virginia Commonwealth University, Norfolk State, Radford, Ferrum, George Mason. This is the list of colleges that offer this program. So you can come in and look at this list, talk with the student about the different options that they might have, look at the descriptions to see if there's something that the college has said. You know, a lot of our graduates go into these types of jobs, for example. Let me point out a couple other differences that we see here. This little icon at the end of the title means that there are course by course requirements loaded for this program. That's not a transfer guide, that's the course by course requirements, truly as if a student were starting at VCU as a freshman. And this is true of any of the programs loaded here. If community college also, if you see that icon, you should see the course by course requirements. So what this says is Radford does not have the course by course requirements loaded. I do want to point out one thing. Bachelor of Social Work, major in social work at James Madison University. There's no course by course requirement icon here for program plans, but let me just show you Keep your eyes open. When you go to read the description of the program plan, you may see a transfer guide is available in the Resource Center for this program. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to the Resource Center with all of the documents there pre-filtered to transfer guides for James Madison University. You will need to scroll through the list of transfer guides once you get there to find the specific one for social work, but it is going to be narrowed down to James Madison. So that's the way that I would kind of address advising scenario one. The student is undecided on a transfer college, but may know their major or career field. And when you see that list of social work programs, you can then delve into the differences between the colleges and help your student narrow in on one. I'm going to go a little deeper into that when we get to a different advising scenario, but Emily, let's go to number 2.
Sounds good. So this student knows their transfer college, but maybe not their major. And I know we get students like that a lot. You know, they've either got friends or family that went to a certain school and that's where they want to go to, but they're not sure of the major. So we're going to help this particular student find a major at this college.
Okay, so we can attack this a couple of different ways. If they know the college, we can go directly to the transfer partners page, and you can get there either with the yellow button at the top here or by clicking on transfer partners in the carousel and clicking anywhere in that image. My computer happens to require a double click. Some are only a single click. And then you see the list of participating institutions in the portal. For this example, let's go to Longwood University. And this is what you're going to see when you want to learn about a particular college. You could also do this from our last scenario when the student wants to explore the different colleges that offer social work. But the first thing that you see when you come to the Longwood University page, and if you haven't been here, let me just quickly show you the different drop downs for each institution. These drop down options are the same for every single transfer partner. I love it because you don't have to go out to 60 college websites. There's a lot of information right here at your fingertips. But I passed exactly what I'm looking for. All right, great. Student wants to go to Longwood University, but they don't know what to major in. See Longwood programs right there. If you click on that, it takes you to the page we were just on, that list of programs. So you can also go programs and courses and then filter by institution to just Longwood University. Here, you are now going to see all of the different programs offered at Longwood, and there are 9 pages of them. They have a lot of programs. You may want to narrow this down by career cluster. So your student is interested in business, but they don't really know what they want. You can narrow that down to business management and administration. And actually, that's probably not a good example here because evidently only one is coded that way. There are a lot of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs labeled here. But you could just send your student here, let them look through, read the descriptions, and see what jumps out at them. Or if you know that they're enjoying the particular degree, the associate degree they're working on, you can help narrow that down. All right, number 3.
Okay, number 3 is student knows the transfer college and major, which is awesome, but unfortunately there's no transfer guide yet. So we're going to help the student find information for that program at that college.
So this is probably a lot more common than, well, this has been a very common example, certainly in the past years. They know where they want to go, they know what they want to major in, but transfer guides are brand new, relatively brand new, and so this is kind of how we've always done things. So here, I would go up to programs and courses, and let's see, my example that I'm using today is that the student knows that they know they want to go to the University of Mary Washington, find it here in my list, and they want to major in biology. And I'm just going to type in biology. Okay, so now we've got things, and keep in mind when you type in that keyword search, it's looking both in the title of the program, like BS in biology, but it's also looking at the descriptions, and you'll see here in the BS chemistry, there is the word biology. So it's going to bring up everything that has the term biology in it. And I do want to point out here that the BS in biology does have a program plan, those course by course requirements, but chemistry does not. So let me go in and look at the BS in biology. And I want to look up program credit requirements. What it initially tells me is please look above to see if a transfer guide is available for this program. And remember, we looked at that on the JMU and it had that link to the transfer guide. This program does not have a link to a transfer guide. So two things. You can go down through and look what the course by course requirements are. And the cool thing in the portal, you can the student can load into their portfolio the community college courses that they've taken, the AP exams that they've taken. And when they come, if they've got that loaded into their portfolio, when they come to this screen, it's actually going to show that, for example, arts and literature may have a writing course fulfilled. If they've taken a math class, the quantitative reasoning may be fulfilled. Those of you who haven't dug around into these program plans, just notice that, for example, it says earn 3 credits by completing courses from the following category. This is what we call a course category. Instead of listing course by course by course, the student can come in and see all of these Mary Washington courses will fulfill this category. And so this is great if they're looking down the road. They've got the portfolio built and the equivalency table is created. They're going to show that, I'm just making this up now. No, I'm not, because I don't know any of the VCCS numbers that might match those. I'll leave that alone. But those will show up as yellow lines that they've satisfied this. But if you want to see really what they need to take at the VCCS college to transfer, you're going to really want to go to the UMW website and do what you've been doing when the transfer guide hasn't been loaded, when there isn't a transfer guide. Maybe if I go back here, even more important is the student wants the BS in chemistry. Oh, wait, there isn't anything loaded for the BS in chemistry, no course by course requirement. Then obviously you need to go to the Mary Washington website to determine what the requirements are there. In a perfect world, we would have course by course requirements for every program loaded in the portal. But I will be very honest, between 4-year university staffing and their ability to create all of these for the portal, it's just not happening fast enough. And honestly, I think at this point we have reached a goal of wanting transfer guides, because I really think that as advisors, that's what's most helpful to us, is that we can see course by course what the student should take at the VCCS college and allow them to know how they are seamlessly going to transfer. I think that's really the key. So we're really pushing, Emily is pushing the transfer guides from the colleges. So Emily, what's scenario number 4?
Before we do that, can I put you on the spot and
Yes,
have you explain the difference between the program plan and the transfer guide?
absolutely. Absolutely. So the program plan from the beginning was designed to be, to give a student the view of what they would take to complete a degree at the 4-year university without having to go to every website. That was the goal. However, it has turned out to be a very labor-intensive chore that not everybody has the staffing to complete. It is not as easy as saying, oh, we created this for our online catalog, because the portal has different coding, if you will. It is very helpful if you are working with, for example, a dual enrollment student who may be taking courses for their UCGS at the high school, but plan to start as a freshman at the four-year university. Well, they're not going to follow the transfer guide because they're transferring without the associate degree. So it is helpful to see the program plan and the course-by-course requirements as if they were starting as a freshman at the four-year. The transfer guide truly is, I want to complete my degree at the community college and transfer 60 to 62 credits to the four-year university. And so the transfer guide is very specific about what to take to complete the associate degree to seamlessly transfer. Is that good, Emily? Did I hit what you were going for?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was clear, you know, the transfer guide of the students planning on completing their associate degree, that's what they should follow. The program plan is more for students who are going to be taking courses towards that program, but maybe not completing the associate degree. You know, the gen ed requirements might look a little bit different. So that's just an important thing to note there. But thank you. That was great.
And I think also, just to tie on to that, if you are working with students, and we all have them, who maybe just need to raise their GPA before they get fully accepted into the four-year, or maybe they've got some courses already and they need just a couple of pieces that they want to take before they transfer, push that UCGS. That UCGS is really, except for the student that comes in that I don't know, needs specific science classes to get into a program, and they're just doing them at the community college because they know they will transfer. But anybody that's really just starting fresh should be focused on the UCGS.
Absolutely. All right. And so the last scenario I'm going to cover, which is the stars have aligned, the student knows their transfer college, they know the major, and there's a transfer guide. So I'm going to show you all how to get to the transfer guides and how to read them. I'm sure you all have reviewed this already, but we're going to just kind of go through it with a fine-toothed comb together. And then, like I said, we'll have an opportunity to answer any questions. So let me, let's do it this way. There we go. Okay, so we're back at the portal. And so same as Melody showed you, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either click transfer guides, click again, or you can go directly to the resource center, which is what I'm going to do. And then, you know, use your filters, as she said. So we're going to click transfer guides. There are currently 335 guides in the portal. We're about to have close to another 100 added. I just want to say before we get into this that there are a lot, but, you know, we know there could be more, and we want there to be more, but it is a lot of work on the schools to put these together. And we only have 2 opportunities a year for them to submit transfer guides. So it's not like they can just hand them in anytime. It's a process. And so please, you know, be patient with the schools as we're trying to get them all onboarded. But if you're having conversations with, you know, four-year partners, encourage them, if they don't have these guides, to submit them, because this is really, you know, the optimal tool, as we mentioned. So we've pre-filtered to transfer guides. And of course, you can sift through the list if you want. That's a lot. There are over 9 pages, so I would not recommend that, but totally up to you. So the student knows their college, and so you can select that here. I will just point out, obviously, this is not every college in Virginia. This is just the ones that have transfer guides submitted at the moment. Oh, Melody, what you got?
I will point out, under the transfer partners right now, Virginia Tech, University of Virginia, Virginia State University is another public that aren't full partners yet. I think Virginia State we're really closely bringing them on this fall. But Virginia Tech and UVA are not full partners, meaning you're not going to see their list of programs, you're not going to see their courses, but there are some very active departments that are making sure that transfer guides are available. And so, for example, Virginia Tech's engineering department has been really gung-ho about getting the transfer guides up here. So keep in mind, even if you don't see them as active partners in the programs and courses listings, their transfer guides are here. Use them.
Thank you. So you can filter by institution. Again, as Melody said, it doesn't matter if they are a full partner or not. And you can also filter by discipline. So same with the list of schools. This is just the list of transfer guides that have been submitted. This is obviously not, we have 28 that have been developed. Those are all not in here yet because we're still, the schools are still working on creating those. But those numbers are going to continue to grow. So we do encourage you, don't get discouraged if you don't see the transfer guide here. We hope that the resources we've shown you in the previous scenarios will be helpful until those schools get their guides. And in some cases, there may not be a transfer guide for a major. A student may pick something that is not a discipline that we've developed. So one of the things I'm trying to encourage every school to have is a general transfer guide, and you'll see those here under general, which is, it's not specific to any major, it's just what can the student, plan to take based on your institution. If you've got a foreign language built in, or, a religion class or health or PE class, things like that that are built in specifically that they want to make sure that the transfer students have when they transfer. So that is a good tool to check out as well. So for today, we're going to look at Bridgewater College. So they're one of our private four-year partners. None of our private four-year partners are required to do any of this, but they all are working very hard to, be in here because, they want to make sure transfer students have access to their institutions as well. And so we've pre-filtered to Bridgewater. They have 26, so they have quite a few in here as well. So we're going to then filter by discipline, and we're going to look at biology today. And there is that. We're going to click on just the general biology. So it's going to take you to this page where you can just scroll right here and see everything, but as you can see, it's a little small. So we're going to go over here and expand the PDF. I'm going to make it even a little bit bigger so it shows up on the recording. And so this is a transfer guide. They all look just like this. Of course, it is branded for the institution. So this one has, of course, Bridgewater's school colors there. At the top, it's going to tell you what the major is at the college or university. So in this case, it's biology. This here is going to tell you the common curriculum discipline that was used for this transfer guide. So this is based on the associate degree plan in biology. And then here we have the catalog year range. So in a sense, this is kind of like a timestamp for the institution to indicate, this was created using their 23-25 catalog year. So, most of that is really going to be this information on this right-hand side, complete at Bridgewater College. In some cases, it can impact the coursework here. But again, they're not changing the common curriculum. They can pare down if they need to. I have not seen any that have had changes so far where that would have negatively impacted a student. Usually they try to broaden the options, if anything. And so, the student, though, is going to be looking at this left-hand side, complete at the community college. The CC course column is, the courses they're going to be taking for the associate degree with either major degree or advising pathway in biology. And so, they'll take their college success skills class, their English courses, UCGS art or literature, history, social behavioral science. Those are all part of the Uniform Certificate of General Studies. And then depending on the discipline, in some cases, they may specify one of the UCGS requirements so that it fits better with that major. So for example, instead of any UCGS natural sciences, biology is required because this is for the biology major at Bridgewater College. So again, has all the courses listed there. The equivalents, if there is an equivalent for the course, is listed over here on the far left column. Sometimes it might just, like here, say history. That means it's just meeting their general education history requirement. Ideally, we're seeing a direct equivalent for a course. Sometimes you might see where it comes in as an elective, or maybe it doesn't transfer. And I know that can be off-putting when you first see that. but what we're wanting to just ensure is that it's not adding time to complete that bachelor's degree. That is really the main idea. And so when I'm reviewing these, and I review all of these multiple times, and now some of you are helping me with that, so I appreciate that very much. But what we're looking for is to make sure that, it's not adding time to degree to complete that bachelor's degree. With most of the common curricula and transfer guide templates, we've left room for additional coursework. I strongly encourage them to include prerequisite math. So for some of these disciplines, the math requirement starts at calculus. Well, we know that not every student is going to be calc ready right off the bat. Most of them are not. And so when I'm reviewing these, I usually recommend make sure there's room for, the prerequisite math. So in this case, they want either applied calculus or calculus. Well, we want to make sure that pre-calc 1 and 2, there's room for that for the student to take it, because most of them are going to need that. Now, in some of these disciplines, there's just not room for it. So engineering, physics, sometimes even computer science, there may not be room for that prerequisite math. And that's always been the case, unfortunately. And we've had to kind of work around that. And so it's just because those majors are just, there's not room for anything extra. And so, you all have been having those conversations. I remember having those conversations. And so those aren't going away, but we are doing our best to ensure that if there's room, that they are including room for students to complete those prerequisite classes. And so that's what it looks like. So this is what the student would take, to meet their associate degree requirements. This is what they can expect to take based on, again, Bridgewater's 23-25 catalog year. So, depending on how each school's catalog year works, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a minute, this may be exactly what they're taking when they get to Bridgewater, or it might be, when they get there, they're in a different catalog year, it might look a little bit different. But again, the idea is they can expect to take classes that look a little bit like this, and that it shouldn't add, significant time to degree. I mean, it should be 2 + 2 right here. When I'm reviewing these, if I see anything over 70, that's a red flag for me, because there's no reason why it should take this transfer student any longer than, a student that started at the institution. Now, again, with engineering, those degrees are more than 120 credits. So you're going to see higher numbers for those. But outside of that, these should be around 60 credits, 60 to 62 credits to complete both the associate degree and the bachelor's degree. On the second page is the transfer guidance section. So again, this is a template, so they're all going to look like this. So as you start reading through these, you're going to start understanding the different sections and know where to look for these things. The top box here, that is the guaranteed admission agreement text box. Most schools are using it for that. Some are using it just to highlight specific transfer information, which means you may still need to go look at the specific guaranteed admission agreement. And as we showed you all last week, that can be found either in the portal or on the VCCS transfer programs page. Ideally, though, it's the guaranteed admission agreement text box, and they've highlighted what the student needs to know to qualify. So here, the student, of course, needs a transferable associate degree. They need a 2.5 GPA or higher. They must earn a grade of C or better in their VCCS courses in order for those credits to transfer. Bridgewater will take 68 credits, so that's great. So if the student has more than the associate degree, and sometimes that happens, they'll take up to 68 towards that bachelor's degree. They also have information here about their testing requirements. They're test optional, but if the student is qualifying for the GAA, they don't have to submit standardized test scores. So that's helpful information for the student if they want to, work towards qualifying for that guaranteed admission. Then we have important links and dates. And so they're going to link their transfer page, maybe their admissions page, the deadlines. So Bridgewater doesn't have a deadline. They have rolling admission. A lot of our private institutions in Virginia operate that way. And so, the student really could apply anytime, but, if they've applied and they've been accepted, they must deposit before June 1st. For financial aid purposes, they'll want to submit that by March 1st, adding Bridgewater to their FAFSA. There's information about what they should consider when selecting courses. Is this degree right for me? That's a really good one. If a student's interested in biology, this will tell them a little bit more about what, skills and traits they should have in order to be successful in a program like this. Another really important section here is what is the impact on my degree of work I have already completed? So if a student comes in with their transfer associate degree, and if they're following this, that is the idea is that they're working towards that transfer associate degree in biology. This tells them that with the completion of that, it will result in all lower division general education requirements being met. They do have 2 additional gen ed classes in one in their junior year and one in their senior year, so those aren't waived, but that's built into the curriculum. So gen ed, for the most part, will be waived with the exception of those 2 classes. Credit for prior learning, so AP, IB, CLEP scores, they will evaluate those for credit. On some of their guides, they have a link, and that's where I'm really working with the schools, is trying to ensure consistency across these. But basically, to my point earlier, when I mentioned the AP scores, you'll want to make sure that, if the student has AP credit, that you look and see, do these score requirements meet the minimum requirement for Bridgewater College. One other thing I forgot to mention, so they don't have any notes in here, and some you'll see don't have any notes. Some schools have notes in every single row. So you will need to read carefully through some of this, but if the school has a specific AP score requirement, so let's say for Bio 101, they wanted a 5, they could put that here, and they should put that there if that's something they want the student to know. So some of these you'll see information about minimum AP score requirements. I would still, even if it's not there, encourage you to look at their AP score site that they should be linking to, so you can see, what the minimum is. And then catalog year, so I was referencing this earlier. So Bridgewater they're not unique, but the majority does this a little bit differently. So they basically say the catalog year is determined by the student's first semester of attendance at the community college post high school. So if you've got a dual enrolled student and then they go to the community college, to complete their associate degree, let's say they started in fall of 23 for this example, then that is when their catalog year starts at Bridgewater, is that fall 23 semester. So then back up here, this is exactly what the student should expect to take because they're in this catalog year. They're, grandfathered into that because that's Bridgewater's policy. Many schools, though, they don't start that catalog year clock until the student starts at the 4-year institution. So that's where, if that's the case, again, these courses, it should look something similar to this, but it might not be this exact layout of classes, depending on if there's been any changes to the catalog year requirements. So that can just be helpful for the student to know, when their catalog year starts and what their requirements are going to look like based on that. Another big one that's really, really helpful, because I know many of you work with, dual enrolled students and maybe students in those early college programs or, whatever they're called, but where they complete their associate degree concurrently with high school. We want to know, how does that work for those students when they transfer? So the completion of an associate degree concurrent with high school results in coursework towards your degree and most general education courses satisfied. Students will be enrolled as freshmen for orientation and engagement purposes. And that's how it works for most of the schools, certainly not all of them. Every school is different, so you'll want to read that carefully. But basically, those students are coming in with, 60 credits that, the school will evaluate, but they're applying as freshmen. Now, there are some cases where they're applying as transfer students. That's pretty rare, but it does happen. So again, if you're working with those students, it's really helpful to look here to find that answer. If there's not a transfer guide, there is a place on the institution profile that we can show you if we have time that will tell you, what is required for a student to be considered a transfer student. And that way, you know how to advise them as far as how they're applying. Is this college right for me? So that's another thing, if the student, hasn't visited the campus, this will tell them a little bit about that so they know what to expect. Obviously, we encourage them to visit because that will be their home for several years. So this is, again, just kind of a snapshot so they can learn a little bit more. There's a did you know that section. We provide canned language in these templates. So sometimes you'll see kind of the same thing, but some schools will change it because this is what they want their students to know specifically. What can I do with this degree? So they have a link to their biology page, which will tell them, about some opportunities. Program successes and highlights. Sometimes schools will leave this blank and I'm like, I know you have things that you want to share with students, toot your horn. This is your opportunity to let your program shine. What are my chances for getting accepted? do more with your degree. So a lot of times with sciences, you know, they'll link to their career exploration page, but also they might encourage students to do research or an internship. And so they've indicated that here, other than classes, are there other program requirements? And so they encourage, you know, their students in biology to complete an internship. This is a very important section. Sometimes there won't be anything here, and that's fine. But this is kind of the last place where the school can share anything else they want the student to know. And sometimes there's some really important information down there. So certainly, you know, encourage your students to read all the way through. But that in a nutshell is the transfer guide. And so again, it's a lot of information. Again, some of these are going to have a lot more text than others, but please encourage your students to read them very carefully, because this is, you know, where the school is putting that information, hopefully in, you know, one document for the student. I'm going to real quick just show you all what, oops, just kidding. Hold on one moment. On the portal, just because I got this question actually yesterday from one of our community college advisors. And so I want to make sure that I point to it to you all as well. So if we go to transfer partners here, and then I'll just use Longwood. And so we'll scroll down, it defaults to transfer student. If we click on academics, the very first tile here is the transfer definition. And so some of them are kind of vague, like this one just says the student has taken classes at the community college after high school. With UVA, Virginia Tech, they actually have a specific amount of credits the student needs to complete after high school. So that's something that can help you if the transfer guide isn't available, to let the student know if they're going to be applying as a transfer student or not, because that does change the dates and the deadlines and the opportunities for them. So I just wanted to point that out as well. I'm going to stop sharing. Melody, do you have anything to add before we
I
open
was
it
just
up
going to
for
say
questions?
there are a couple other cards on that same view that might give a little bit more information if it's a dual enrollment case kind of thing. But no, why don't you go ahead and put up our final slide?
Thank you. I forgot about that. One
All
moment.
right. Oh, did you want to point out the admin site?
Yes. Let me hold on. Let me share here. Okay.
There we go.
So this is our last slide. It just tells you the address for the admin site. If you all don't already have this saved, we highly encourage you to do that. You can find pretty much anything behind the scenes. This isn't necessarily for students. This is more for you, you know, to know the behind the scenes information. The portal is, you know, the public facing repository. But you can find timelines for various things. The training videos, all of these videos that we are doing for this info session will be posted in there. You know, it's a really great resource. So, you know, I would recommend saving that to your favorites and checking that out as well.
A few of those tabs on the administrative site are more geared for faculty or staff working on developing the curriculum for various disciplines, or creating new courses that are going to get added to the VCCS Master Course Catalog. But the portal information tab has training. It has behind the scenes things for the college people who are developing the data files to make the content. I like the how-to videos, and there are some handouts specifically for community college students. Some of your student development courses are actually using some of these activity booklets in their SDV courses. So, and right now we don't have any upcoming trainings, but the recordings from these 3 sessions are under presentation and training videos.
And on our YouTube channel.
On the YouTube channel.
That real quick too. All right. In our last 10 minutes, does anybody have any questions?
Will you put the slide up with our email contacts, please?
Sure. Am I still sharing? I don't think so.
And I'm going to stop recording.